Hi, I'm Marshall and I'm walking you through the BluOS 4.0 controller app for Bluesound. Okay, so let's go ahead and install our new Bluesound speaker or streamer. The first place we want to go is the App Store. We'll go there and grab the Bluesound app for mobile, iPads, iPhones, Android phones, Android tablets, as well as desktop. Of course, the easiest place to get this from is bluesound.com/downloads. Once we download the application, of course, we have our standard issue end user license agreement, and you will see a pop-up in some cases that asks you for permission to access devices on your local network. Make sure to accept that or else you won't get very far. Now, in this case, I have some Bluesound products already installed on my system, so I get a friendly little welcome screen. But I have not yet installed this speaker back here in the background with the green light. Blue light, obviously for Bluesound, is good here in the back right corner. In the back left corner, my green light tells me it's not yet set up. So my choices are I can come in here to the player tab, and it may be empty in your case, and tap on the plus button to add a player. And it's going to begin looking for devices on your or in your Wi-Fi area. Now, what's interesting is if you don't see this, it sometimes does happen. You want to go instead into your Wi-Fi nearby networks. And so we can go into the Wi-Fi nearby networks. I'm on my current Wi-Fi network here. And what I'm going to do is scroll down and see pop up down below a AirPlay speaker setup. That AirPlay speaker setup is super, super key. I'm going to tap on that. And this is the built-in AirPlay speaker setup, common for lots of other brands that happen to use AirPlay. We can come in here and give it a new name if we want, give it a password. I do not recommend adding a secondary password. No one likes passwords. And the good news about the AirPlay setup is you do not have to put in a password. Your phone knows the password already. Your phone has its favorite network memorized in already. The phone's going to hand the credentials of the Wi-Fi network there to my blinking green light, and there I'm on the network. If you have an issue with this AirPlay setup, just remember you may have a Wi-Fi repeater or a secondary router or some sort of secondary augmented product that's trying to help your Wi-Fi, and in fact that makes for a long round trip time. So that may actually add to the complications or add to your issues if you're seeing any. Or also check out our support online, support.bluesound.com. Now that I've added my AirPlay speaker on my nearby Wi-Fi networks, I can return to the Bluesound app. When you've added a new product in, the Bluesound app will see it, and it says needs setup. This is super common. And in effect, it's just telling me, hey, you need to make sure your firmware is up to date for all the features that the app has, because of course apps automatically update themselves, whereas Bluesound does not automatically update itself, especially for new speakers. If you've got a new speaker or a new streamer, it may be running older firmware, so it's good to just check and make sure that's up to date. And if you've got a fast network, it's not going to be a problem. The updates are going to go pretty stinking fast. So we're going to type in guest bedroom here. Hit continue. It's going to add that name for guest bedroom, check, make sure the firmware is up to date, and I'm good to go. I can either add another player or hit finish. And now I've got that guest bedroom with a Pulse 2i dialed into my Bluesound app. Let's go over to the Home tab. The BluOS 4.0 controller app got a major update this year, and you'll see here towards the bottom of the screen some major control elements, right? So our tabbed-based browsing is here at the bottom. Home, favorites, music, players, and search. I'm going to walk you through all 5 tabs of the BluOS controller app 4.0. Now, of course, this is commonly referred to as also the Bluesound app, but it runs multiple platforms of hardware using our BluOS partner program, as well as NAD's sister brand to Bluesound, products like the Dolly, Equiline, as well as Monitor Audio, Roxanne, Cyrus, and some others. But what we're going to be focusing on today is really just the app. And this application runs, again, lots of different hardware platforms. And so you'll see some branding throughout the app, maybe on the version that you have. Now here in the Home tab, this is, of course, our starting point. And the Home tab has lots of content in here. You'll notice it's easily identifiable by these tiles. And in your version, if you just downloaded the application, you will actually not see quite as many tiles as I have, because not only do I have a lot of streaming services, but this app learns what you do. Recently played here. We've got recently played. I can tap View All and actually look at everything I've recently played in that zone. I can swipe there back to the right. I've got recent stations. I can clear that if I don't want to see my recently played stations. Maybe I had some party last night and it's not content I would usually listen to. And I've got BluOS playlists here at the bottom of the Home tab. Now what's interesting is you can also reorganize this content. So if I scroll to the bottom and tap on Customize Home, it pulls up an option to reorganize this content. I'll just grab on some of these handles here on the right-hand side. I can reorder presets there at the top, put most used back at the top, and then save when I'm done. And that'll again reorganize those content tile sections. We also have things like presets, and I'll walk you through very quickly how to add a preset. So when you first open your preset menu, you may not see anything if you don't have any prior presets established. And of course we have the plus button there in the top right corner. Now what I like to do is I like to give it a sound first before giving it a name. Let's say I want to listen to Amazon Music on this preset, something maybe new albums or a new playlist. I can drill in there. Each of these will look a little bit different. So, Amazon looks a little bit different than Tidal, which looks a little bit different than Qobuz, which looks different than Pandora. Once I've selected that preset sound, it'll actually automatically name it for me and give it the most recently unused or blank number, typically the lowest number. And then I can also include the current volume level. I love this feature for the volume level setting by itself. Because of course with preset, as I'm recalling a preset, certain playlists or certain inputs, I may want to include the volume or not. If it's an HDMI input, for example, maybe it's an NAD M10 or a BlueSound soundbar, I want to use the HDMI input a lot, and I may want to include that current volume level. So you can turn that on and then change the volume level where you want it, and when you're ready, you hit save. And I'll see in this playlist here, or this preset list here, those presets that I've created. Now what's interesting is we back out of presets here and go back to the home tab. I've got, again, most recently used content there at the top. And I can easily jump into the streaming service by tapping on Pandora there. I can jump into the service itself on the Home tab. I can jump in and play the TV input or look at settings for that input. That's actually an external input on my NAD product I've named TV. So I can give it a special name, change the lip sync delay. That's of course for that input. And we'll get to external inputs coming up in a few minutes. And then finally, in the Home tab, we've got settings here at the top right corner. So this is a major, of course, bucket of settings that are both global and by device. So in some cases with audio, that's of course by device. I've got my audio settings. In this case, this is a product that uses DIRAC. I can change the DIRAC filters here. I've got subwoofer crossover options, things like that. If you're adding a subwoofer to your system, always come in here and check to make sure that you've got it dialed in the way that you want it. That's, again, by device. I've got some player settings. Music library is actually more of a global setting, so that affects a number of different products in the BlueSound ecosystem. And then, of course, I've got some other diagnostic tools down here towards the bottom. Send support request is huge. And what this does is this will actually take a log file of the product, ask you for your name, your contact information, and then send that support request up to our support crew. And the support crew will, of course, not only get your name and contact information, but they'll also get the log file of that device. And that includes, things like nearby Wi-Fi networks, Wi-Fi strength, number of songs in your index, etc., etc. Now, speaking of Wi-Fi strength, this is a major menu. If you're a client who's having an issue with your system, if you're an installer putting in multiple systems, it's imperative you familiarize yourself with the Help and Diagnostics section. So again, this is found in the Home tab lower left corner, and then the settings there in the upper right corner. And then you scroll down to the bottom and find diagnostics. So this is the actual Wi-Fi signal of that speaker right there with the little blue light here in the background sitting on the table here. And I can actually scroll down and click into each one or tap into each one and look at, say, the kitchen. And if I tap into a player that's not on Wi-Fi, that's on Ethernet, I get the IP address. This is so meaningful because I can now take the IP address and say, go into this section here, which is an embedded web page, and I can change some settings in here. Products like the NAD CI580, you rename rooms or deactivate and enable rooms in this menu system. If you are setting up something on Wi-Fi and you're having some issues and it's throwing up 10.1.2.3 as the IP address, you can come into this diagnostic menu and connect it there using your Wi-Fi settings. So again, that's found. We are in the Home tab and then the Settings menu, the Settings gear up there in the upper right corner in the BluOS 4.0 app. That walks you through Home. Again, you can reorganize this content, scroll left to right, just really easy to use. Now let's go over to Favorites. Now Favorites, similar to Search, is contextual. That means you'll have to kind of ask yourself, what is it that you want to do when you're looking at these favorites you're searching? And that starts in the upper right corner. So we tap on Tidal, I get different streaming services. I can tap on Qobuz, and then my favorites will change for Qobuz. I've got certain favorite playlists there in Qobuz, great demo playlists. I use this in trade shows and things like that. I have some personal favorites here, that John Mayer album. But again, I can change that contextual menu, pick my service, and it will reorganize the content for favorites. This may be a menu you use a lot, it may not be, but it also changes based upon the streaming service, because each streaming service that's native to BluOS gives us certain features or aspects that we can then use back in our application. Some of them are more bare bones. If I drill down into, say, TuneIn Radio, it's very straightforward. I don't have any favorites in TuneIn, so it's going to throw up a blank menu there. Now let's get on to the Music tab. This is where a lot of people will be spending a lot of time. And like the Home tab, it's been totally redesigned for 4.0, the BluOS Controller 4.0 app. So up here on the top, we've got inputs there. I can customize that. Below inputs, I've got music services. And of course, that's all the services I'm logged into in my Bluesound system. If you're an installer and you're installing a big multi-room system, 4 rooms, 6 rooms, 8 rooms, whatever, maybe 30 rooms of Bluesound, you want to get this dialed in first on your first player before you add subsequent players in the Bluesound ecosystem, because each one of these has an associated login credential, right? Username, password, etc. And so you have to add that to each speaker individually if all of them are on the network. But if you only have one speaker on the network, I can add in this streaming service, say with Tidal, and then as I'm adding different services onto the network, it'll automatically share the credentials there. So if you do one player at a time, get one player fully set up, as I add a second player, it will automatically share those credentials. Here are all the services available in your country. And again, the place that I'm at, I'm on the Music tab. And then tap on Manage there, and you'll see all those services. And I can of course drill in and say log out, log back in. If I'm not already logged in, it'll show me log in here instead. This is another great way if you're having an issue with your service, your streaming service. Maybe you shared your password with a friend and you want to change the password. You'd need to log out and log back in if you're having an issue with your music service. And then here towards the top, we've got Customize. I love this option here in the new BluOS 4.0 app. I can rename inputs, I can give them icons, and it's easy to find. Again, where I'm at, I'm in the Music tab, and then here, Customize for inputs. Look out there to the right-hand side, Customize for inputs. I can disable Bluetooth. Maybe I want to only focus on AirPlay. I'm in a home full of multiple people. I've got some friends. Some speakers are on Bluetooth, other speakers are on Wi-Fi using AirPlay, and I don't want Bluetooth on some systems. Like my living room, I can disable Bluetooth there. So finally, you can also add a music service here using the plus button in the upper right corner, which brings up this menu here. All right, that's the Music tab in BluOS. And just a reminder, each service looks a little bit different. So there's Tidal. Tidal looks a bit different. So we've got Masters content, new content. I can scroll there to the right. I can look at recent favorites again in Tidal. So a couple different places, a couple different ways to get to the same place. When I go into Qobuz, it's going to look a little bit different. Recommendations there, favorites. And then if I go into, say, Pandora, I'm going to have just a different look and feel. So, you know, different services, again, have different API structures for companies to leverage in their music streaming applications. And then we'll scroll up to the top. I'll show you Amazon. There's what Amazon looks like inside of BluOS. Amazon in America is a great service because it's got great stations, plus I can search for content, I can play my own content, and I've got my soundtracks and some different things, and it's all in super high res. So up to 24:192 if that particular album or track is in high res audio. So some awesome content there from Amazon. So that leads us into the Now Playing screen. Let's look at the Now Playing screen here. I'm currently playing some Amazon content there on the left-hand side. I can tap on that icon and it actually gives me the bit depth and sampling rate there of that current track. Every track's different. Some studios have high-res music, so other studios have CD quality. Many have CD quality, and then other studios only give you MP3 quality for some hard-to-use or hard-to-find content. In the Now Playing screen, I've got some options here towards the top. I've got Now Playing and then Play Queue. Right now, I'm listening to a station. So the station would not necessarily be leveraging the Play Queue. So that means that, you know, a station here in Amazon is kind of this endlessly playing assortment of music, and I can't really control what's in that queue. If I wanted to use, say, a service like Tidal or Qobuz or Amazon in some ways, and add music to the play queue, I could do that from any place where I'm viewing albums, right? We can go into favorites or someplace else, and I can look for an album, search for an album, play those individual tracks, but here is where they would live. They would live again in the play queue. Also, if you want to edit a playlist and then upload a playlist, or download a playlist from the cloud, put it in here, edit the order of the playlist, I can do that here. I can tap on the edit button, reorganize content, delete content, and then I can save, or I can hit the check mark there, and then save that content in a playlist. Commonly, this is a local BluOS saved playlist. So the only place this playlist lives is in BluOS. Now, if I want to add a track to an existing cloud-based playlist like Tidal or Qobuz, I'd have to be on that track, and I can tap on the More button. I'll do that again for you. The More button down here to the right-hand side, the three dots, and I can add to a playlist. And if it's a cloud-based service that allows me to edit playlists, like Qobuz in this case, I can add to a Qobuz playlist, add this individual track to a Qobuz playlist. If I have it in BluOS, these are my local playlists, so we have local versus cloud, or I can make a new playlist in some cases. They're in the top right corner. So a number of different ways to add content to a playlist, to download a playlist into the queue, edit that playlist, and then either replace it to edit the playlist or just make a new playlist there using the More button for a Now Playing track. This More button, the three dots, it comes up a lot in most applications. Apple Music, BluOS, Spotify. We're going to walk you through those apps coming up in a second, but that's the Now Playing screen in BluOS. And one final thought here. I love the sampling rate and bit depth there if I tap on the icon. And then you can also have a quick hop over to your player drawer, which is where we're going now. Swipe down, go to the player drawer. These are my players in my Bluesound system. So what I've got here, of course, are 4 players. If I want to group them together, I can just focus on the player that I'm on now. It's highlighted in gray, and I can tap on this little link button here, and it'll join the guest bedroom to the living room. And you'll see the plus, the 2 zones or 2 rooms together there towards the top, living room plus bedroom. I can also dissolve the group there by hitting the X, and it'll dissolve the group and take those 2 players apart. If you have multiple rooms of players, this list could be long. if you want to organize this list, it's done alphabetically. So that's why I have a little hyphen there out in front of living room. If I want to group all of them together, there's group all towards the bottom. You can tap on that, ask you to confirm. I could say yes. Takes it a second for everyone to make sure they're keeping time, and it groups everything together. And then I have a family of 4 players just like that. And I can increase the system volume, and all the players in the system will increase their volume level. And again, if I want to collapse this group, I can hit X and dissolve the group there individually. If I want to pause the music in all rooms, I've got pause all there toward the bottom. If you're doing a stereo pair, if you're doing a home theater group, the place to do that is here, up in the upper right corner. I can tap on this group button here. I can tap on this group button. It asks me for fixed groups. I can create a fixed group, and then I've got stereo pair, multiplayer group, and home theater group there. And of course, with the stereo pair group, that is 2 players that are similar to each other. Multiplayer group is kind of really anything. Could be a zone on an NAD CI580, could be something else. And of course, home theater group are specific pieces that are compatible with home theater group. If you want to know what is compatible in the Bluesound app with a home theater group, visit support.bluesound.com or support.bluos.io, and you'll find the home theater group options. Products like the soundbar are obvious products that are compatible with home theater group, but also the power nodes are Bluesound power nodes, as well as select NAD products can be a part of a home theater group. So that's the player tab in the BluOS 4.0 app. And then last but not least, search. I think all of us use search for everything in our lives, right? We search in apps at the grocery store, we search on Google, we search on DuckDuckGo, and of course we search in music apps. Now, the way that search works inside of Bluesound today is it's contextual. So you need to make sure you're searching inside a select service. And that makes the app nice and fast. It generally helps in terms of compartmentalizing your search, but I've recently searched for everyone's least favorite artist. I'm just kidding. Diana Krall there. And I'm searching again inside of Tidal. So as you search, make sure you're aware of what streaming service you're searching inside of. It'll actually prompt you by saying search Tidal there in the search box. On iPad, it works the same way. On tablets, it works the same way. On desktop, search is kind of tucked up into the upper left corner, and again, also contextual. Make sure you're searching in the right group before you tap the enter button on your search result. But of course, what you'll get as a list of results, songs, playlists, albums, and then towards the top you do get artists, because sometimes there are collaborations they do with different groups. I'm searching in Tidal here, so you get Miss Krall, her albums ordered by date of release. EP singles also ordered by date of release, you'll see. And some services have duplicates if they have a CD quality version and a high-res audio quality version. And then my favorite feature, available only in select streaming services, are similar artists. Now with Tidal, they just tell you what the similar artists are. Whereas with, of course, Pandora or Amazon, they just play them for you in order. If you're listening to, say, a station on Pandora or a station on Amazon, and you can thumbs up or thumbs down those automatically playing stations. But that's what search looks like in the BluOS 4.0 app here on iPhone. iPads, tablets are going to look really similarly, of course, with all the different aspects of the app. The difference is the home tab, the favorites, music, that just kind of gets reorganized over here on the left-hand side for the tablet version and for the desktop version. To make sure you're all up to date, check your hardware and firmware version numbers by just using the check for upgrade button here behind the settings interface. The settings sprocket, I can say check for upgrade. It'll say no update available. Sometimes if you've got some older hardware or you haven't updated recently, your app may look a little bit different. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to look at Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect, Apple Music, as well as AirPlay. So playing some content here in the living room, let's jump into Apple Music. Listen to a little Music One. It's a great station. particularly in the morning, Apple Music 1. This is the Apple Music app, and I'm going to listen to this, this content on my Bluesound speaker. So it's currently playing, and there are two ways to get to the AirPlay interface. I can swipe down from the top right, and I have the AirPlay icon there. I can also tap on the AirPlay icon right there at the bottom middle of the screen, and then get different zones. If you are an installer, if you're a customer that just loves technology and you've got lots of different pieces in your home, the naming conventions of these pieces is incredibly important. If you have two living rooms with the exact same spelling, this is why I have hyphens on either side of mine, there can be some issues with AirPlay, naming, and things like that. In some cases, your Apple TV may not even appear in the list of players if you've accidentally had the same name for your zones. And the same goes for control systems. So you've got AirPlay playing now with this particular Apple Music station, and I can control the volume level there.
It's very nature strong.
So what's, again, super important here is there are a couple different ways to get to it. You've got AirPlay control there at the bottom, and you've got AirPlay control and control center there. I can tap on that, I can stop the music, or go back to my phone and take it off my Bluesound system. Now it's playing back on the phone. You can also do this with podcasts or a number of different things, but that's what the Apple Music interface looks like here in iPhone. Now what I love about this is that there's no new app to learn. It just works. I can go in here, I can tap on hits, I can play some best new song here. I've got my now playing screen. Again, the easiest way to get to this is to tap on what's now playing, the little cover art there in the bottom left. And then you have AirPlay there in the bottom center. If you need to go back and rewatch any of this content, if I'm going a bit quick, that's okay. Just hit rewind on the video and go back and rewatch it. But the point is, with AirPlay, there's no new app to learn. I already know how to use the Apple Music app if I'm an avid Apple Music fan. And the same is true with Spotify Connect. I'm going to pause the content there. One thing I love about AirPlay is that when I come back to my home, AirPlay just picks up. If I open up the Apple Music app, AirPlay will just pick up where I left off and play out of the same speaker without me having to choose it. But now this is the Spotify app, and Spotify is a bit different. Spotify uses Spotify Connect. Now you learned earlier in this video how to do presets, and you can actually set up a preset with Spotify Connect and play content from your Bluesound system without ever opening the Spotify app. You can save up to 40 presets on your Bluesound system that all will recall one of these Spotify playlists. So any playlist you may have in Spotify, I just use it for background music here. You can recall one of these with a preset function in the Bluesound app or the BluOS controller app without ever having to open the Spotify app. Just look for the preset section in the same video. But here's Spotify, right? I'm currently playing on my phone. I can tap on the now playing screen, just like I did with AirPlay. I tapped on the now playing screen there. And then in the lower left corner, I have my speakers, my audio endpoints. This is Spotify Connect. I can tap on guest bedroom there and play content out of the speaker there on the top left corner of your screen. And I can even use the volume slider. I can even use the volume slider there in the app, or the volume rocker switch for Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal Connect, and it controls the Bluesound speaker. To take that audio back off the Bluesound speaker back to my phone, I tap on that speaker icon in the lower left corner, puts it right back onto my phone. Now, one major difference between Spotify Connect and AirPlay is I can play this song on Spotify Connect, fully quit the program, fully quit Spotify Connect, and the music keeps playing that same song in that same room. I can even resume that song and it'll play from Spotify just like that. I love this feature. I can leave the house and the music keeps playing right here on this speaker in the background. Now, if I had AirPlay and I left the house, the music would stop in the home. It would continue on my phone. Not true with Spotify Connect. So Spotify Connect works great. Tidal Connect works the exact same way. So with Tidal Connect, I open up the Tidal app. I can play some content in Tidal. I have the option of playing this in Tidal Connect, AirPlay, or Bluetooth. I can use all three with the native Tidal application. And again, these are the native music apps on that particular service. Qobuz works similarly. If I wanted to use the Tidal integration inside of BlueSound, I could do that, and that would actually, in my opinion, work a little bit better, but you get the same quality. You get the same quality audio between Tidal Connect and BluOS. I can tap on the Tidal Connect icon just like that. I get all my different zones. With Tidal Connect, I can tap on Guest Bedroom and just take over what I was playing there, and it shows what zone I'm playing in currently with the Billie Eilish track. Same thing works with the volume controls, or I can mute it there with Tidal Connect. So a couple different ways to play music there with the BlueSound app and the BlueSound ecosystem, or I should say BluOS, powered BluOS products from NAD, Monitor Audio, Dolly, as well as many others. And that's a brief walkthrough of BluOS 4.0, Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, AirPlay, just to name a few. Thanks so much for watching.